showing out, making moves, no doubt. FFA pride, it's what we're all about. From classroom dreams to real world flair, we got the stories you won't find anywhere. Beyond the jacket where the stories unfold, voices of the future, fearless and bold. Tune in now, let the passion ignite. It's more than a jacket, it's a way of life. Beyond the jacket where passion meets purpose.
Welcome, listeners, back to the podcast. We're so excited to have you today. Today we have Emma Poole with us from Florida. Super excited for y'all to meet one of my best friends and get to learn about her journey beyond the blue jacket. This is an extemporaneous episode. We filmed once and lost the recording, so now this is times 2 for us hosts of Lacie and I. And Emma's excited to tell you all about her journey. So, Emma, why don't you reintroduce yourself to our listeners, and we'll get started today.
I'm Emma. My friends call me Em or Emmy. They call me a lot of things. I'm so excited to still be here round 2 and just get to talk about FFA and what life looks like after FFA, which everyone thinks is such a scary thing, but it's actually not the end. It's just the beginning. So, yeah, thank y'all for having me twice.
Absolutely. I love it because we've had, different kind of like difficulties that come up when it comes to technology. But this was the first time that in real time after we ended the entire podcast where I quite literally shedded tears. I don't think that's the right English, but we're going to go with it. And then we're like, oh, so fun fact, we actually have none of that to show for it. So let's just restart, regroup. I fed my cats. We had a potty break and now we're back into it. So
back into it.
Emma, I will ask you again, what is it that got you started in FFA originally? Was it something where, your family was in it or, you had like cattle or horses growing up and you just knew you were going to do FFA, or were you just like, you know what, this sounds like an interesting extracurricular to add?
Well, I did grow up around agriculture, and I found my way to FFA on my own in the middle school elective wheel. Very scary place. But actually found out much later on down the line that my family did have history in FFA, and they just decided not to tell me about it because they wanted me to kind of discover the path and fall down wherever, I thought I was, being led. And so here I was thinking I was like being all rebellious and taking the path less traveled in this hard forged road as a 6th grader. And then at state convention a couple years later, this advisor who's a rank stranger to me is like, wait a minute, mentioning that my mama's maiden name is Miley. He's like Gray Miley and Paul Miley and Dub Miley. And I'm like, you just named my relatives. And he's like,
how do you know my whole family?
My entire bloodline. Well, that's because my great uncle Gray Miley was the first ever Florida FFA state president. His name is on our charter. He was the first national officer from the state of Florida. He was the Southern Region Vice President in 1929 to 1930, and he forged the path. I was not being rebellious. It's like the Hannah Montana movie, you always find your way back home, right? But I thought that I was finding my way out into a cold, cruel world and taking some uncharted path. But no, my papa did livestock judging with his brother, and they were quite decorated in that. And my daddy was an FFA, and he did land judging and livestock judging, and he was great at it. And then my grandpa was in FFA in Georgia too. So yeah, come to find all that out. But I think it's so funny that it really means more when you find SEC. It just means more. When you find your way to something because you want to do it. We were mentioning earlier that there's a lot of pressure. So I think that's super cool to get that opportunity. And that was a great move by my parents in my estimation.
Listen, I don't know your parents. I can't name your entire bloodline, but I think that was a fantastic move from them because I think a lot of times when you are, I don't know personally because I have not raised my own children yet, but you don't want to put those pressures on them. Like I've always told people, showing cattle meant so much to me, but I don't want to force my kids to do it. I would love for them to find a love for it organically. I would like them to want to do it more than me wanting to do it, them to do it for my own gain. So I think it's really big of your parents and really fantastic that you got to develop your own love for FFA and not get kind of forced into it of like, well, you're going to do it because you're the 4th generation and your dad did it, your grandpappy did it, and so by golly, you're going to do it.
We always say like with our family's organization on our side is like, we never are going to force like grandkids, cousins to be a part of the cattle operation. However, you must support it. That being said, advocate for it. But like, for example, my cousin's a nurse and she supports agriculture, but she doesn't work in it. I think that's something to say is like, as long as you support it, you move forward and your parents don't force you to do it. You find your own things, you find your own passion. And we definitely know for the second time that Florida FFA and all things agriculture are Emma's passion. Emma, you've been such a mentor to me in so many different ways, listeners, if you didn't know. So I know that you've been a mentor to me, especially with extemporaneous public speaking and state office things and all the things that go into being and wearing that blue jacket. So who has been a mentor for you and pushed you to excel for national officer candidacy, state office, and all the amazing accolades you have?
Throwing something in that I forgot to add last time, but y'all can't read the bracelet, but this is in honor of Mr. Cruse, my high school FFA advisor. He graduated high school with my mom, and so, small town, family lore, I kind of knew that he was the person that I wanted to be under their wing. So I choiced into Durant High School, go Cougars. And Mr. Cruse told me that if I wanted to be a state officer, that he would do everything he could to help me get there. But it didn't take me very long at all to figure out that he wasn't the kind of person that was only going to help you with that one goal that he thought you could or wanted you to accomplish. He was gonna push you in the right direction and give you that tough love. His wife was also my language arts teacher in middle school. So shout out to Miss Suzanne. Love her very much. Mr. Cruse, can't say enough good things about the man. He kind of turned into someone that got to hear about all the boy drama and everything and always was telling me to dump people. And he taught me some very, very good lessons about, stopping being apologetic for who I was and stopping defending myself, letting my actions speak for themselves and just doing what I knew God put me here to do and following in the paths that I was feeling led down. When I was a state officer and slightly after, I was like, I feel the call to run for national FFA office. And Mr. Cruse supported me filling out the application, but it was at that time that he got diagnosed with cancer. And navigating that process without someone who had kind of become like the third parent in my life was really difficult. And I think that the nominating committee could probably tell that ELP was only there because she wanted to be her advisor's like first national officer from his high school. And so actually was the last time that I got to talk to Mr. Cruse was, for those who haven't run for national office, I'll describe it. You're all in a room. They hand you an envelope the night of the advancement to the second round. And in that envelope, they tell you, congrats, you're moving on to the second phase of the screening process, or thank you for your time. Go home. They don't say it that mean though. But they let you open them all together in the room, but it's at the hotel that the national candidates are staying at, right? So set the scene. Those who've been to Indy know it's a pretty walkable city, but the Florida block is like far away from the national candidate hotel. And so, the Lord works on me every day with patience and self-control. But that night I had enough of it because I took that dang envelope and walked all the way back to the Florida block because Mr. Cruse was feeling well enough to FaceTime for me to open the envelope. And I opened it up and it said, thank you for your time. I don't remember exactly what it said. I don't even know if I still have it. Probably not. But those who knew Mr. Cruse, and I'll describe him for those who don't, very tough, big guy who could seem scary. Like if you did not do well at a contest, he was going to yell at you until you cried and punch a hole through a wall, which he was not actually going to do, but he was very tough. And he had never been the kind of person to, have someone do bad at a contest and be like, oh, I'm proud of you anyway. So here I am in this moment feeling like I did horrible and I let everybody down. And I started crying. And he was like, no, stop crying. And here's this man that I look up to so much, who is now so weak because of this disease, yet he was like so strong in that moment. And he says to me, like, I know you did your best. And that's all you can ask of yourself. Like, I'm proud of you. Stop crying. And in that moment, it's like I realized, hey, like I didn't run for national FFA office because I'm like, oh, I love this organization so much. I want to give back another year of my life, which like, sure, I totally would have been fine doing that. Truth be told, I was there to say thank you to that man because I was so stubborn that I had never just taken the opportunity to say the words. And I'm very grateful that I finally just stopped waiting for, God to lay the perfect opportunity to say thank you to someone who did so much for me. And I created that opportunity on my own because that was the last time I got to speak to him Earthside. And I think it was closure for me getting to hear from him that he was proud of me. I knew he was, but just that I knew that he knew why I did that. That was very special to me. And I think that I have carried a lot forward from Mr. Cruse. And whether it's the silly little things like, being icked out by certain things and guys that he told me I should dump people for, or whether that's just knowing how to put others before yourself and do things sometimes if it's not even for you. I hope in my adult life to be 1% of the person that he was. He was genuinely everything to my development in high school. And I'm glad I got the chance to thank him and tell him how much he meant to me. And if this is a sign to any listener, tell people you love them and thank them. Don't wait.
And if you couldn't have guessed, listeners, this is when Lacie started bawling like a baby in the first recording.
Cry this time.
And not only because obviously the story you just explained with your advisor is a beautiful one. And I think honestly it resonates because even if it's not your advisor, I think a lot of times we'll do things in life to please or to get that I'm proud of you. And so sometimes when you realize that it was in failure for you that you got that, I'm proud of you, it makes you realize that it's not always the big flashy thing of, oh, I'm a national officer. Oh, I did this and did that. It's the process it took to get you there. It was that all that hard work he saw you clock in and he was proud of you regardless. Whatever that envelope was going to say, he knew he was proud. And that meant so much to you. And that's such a beautiful, obviously still wish he could be here today, but there's not a better send off, honestly, to be able to have that. And I'm really glad that you got to have that for him. And I was just telling Emma that I don't think I've talked to a single person that has as much passion and fire behind them as you. And it makes me really happy and proud of you as not a stranger anymore, but at the beginning of this podcast, we very much were, because not a lot of people have as much wisdom as you do at such a young age. That's what shocks me too, hearing you speak, is just you are wise beyond your years. And it really is like weird to hear, in a good way. I hope you take it that way. And it makes me very grateful that you're exactly where you are doing exactly what you're doing. Cause I can only imagine you are a fantastic mentor to all the FFA kids you talk to. What is one piece of advice you give those mentees or would want them to leave you with? Because I think that people listening to the podcast could probably benefit from hearing it as well.
Well, the first thing I tell people is to get a better role model than me. So that's so funny. But, we were talking a little bit before the recording about, sometimes you can't count on anything. I'm like, the only thing that you can count on sometimes is being young and hot. Jokingly, of course, but I said I was going to say it again because it's funny. But seriously, though, like I feel like, talking about being where I am, heck, I didn't want to be here. I did everything I could to run away from, the direction that I've ended up going in, like making my own plans, forging that 5-year plan that then the Lord just said, no, you're not doing that. Literally every single time. And so at this point, I'm like, okay, maybe it's not about how accurately can we guess what we're going to be doing in life. This is why I avoid the question, what's after college? I don't know. And I'm really happy about that. Because if I was limiting my potential to the possibilities that I know about, that would be a really sad thing for me. So that's what I tell anyone whom, I don't know how truthfully I could call it mentoring, but getting the chance to speak into people's lives and offer them advice that I sometimes struggle to follow myself, is that you can't always be the person who knows what's going to happen, but you can always be the person who gets back up, lands on all fours like a cat, and then pivots, right? You can be the person who takes rejection as redirection. You can be somebody who says, okay, well, I'm waking up today not knowing what the day is going to bring, but I'm grateful for that because that means there are more possibilities out there than what I imagined and the best plan that I made for myself. So, I think that sometimes we confine ourselves to the work that we set forth maybe 5, 10 years ago, whatever, the things that we thought we wanted to do as a kid. But one of my favorite quotes goes like, if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? Because sometimes there's something that you're just meant to do. And it's always worth doing that thing, even if it means that one of your other plans gets flipped upside down on its head. We joked before the first recording about all of the things that I almost was in my life. And while in the moment, there have been several moments that I have completely crashed out because those things did not happen. I sit here today confidently telling you that, I am forever indebted to everyone in my life who has encouraged me to be the kind of person who can hop right back up on my feet and take redirection as something to have a lot of gratitude for. So that is probably the best advice that I could offer someone besides taking advantage of being young and hot. Definitely being the person who knows who you are. And for me, with my faith being important to me, knowing whose I am has never led me wrong, has never led me in the right direction or the wrong direction, even if it's not always the direction I thought I was going to go in.
I always tell people that adapting is huge because the 2 times in my life where I felt like my world was ending were 2 of the biggest moments that I got the best opportunities. So I think really just taking a closed door as an opportunity and not as an end is a huge one. So I think that that's great advice for anybody to hear at any age either, because that's the thing too, is you can think it's over at 20 or 25. And that's why we were joking when I was like, I just tell everyone, I'm like, please just continue to be young and hot. Because I think so many times we're dead set on a path and we think we have our life put together at 18 and we don't know anything. Like I'm going to be 30 and I still do not know anything. And I just want to take every day for what it is and go with it. Just going with the flow.
You can lay down and curl up in a ball and roll over and die and bawl your eyes out in front of the closed door. Or you can stand back up, dust your britches off, and keep walking down the hall. Like, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm. It's that redirection and that rejection that leads to redirection. And it's such a cliche thing to say. But if I wouldn't have lost state office, I would not have been at the University of Florida and found one of my best friends, Emma, to be able to then have this podcast in conjunction with Farm for Profit. And if you sit down and truly reflect on what's happened when you look at your 5-year plan and to look at what it is now, I mean, there's so many different opportunities that have been not handed to me. Obviously, we've worked for this, but you never knew what was going to happen. And when it all falls into place and it makes this puzzle, you're like, wow, look at where life has brought me. And I always say, like, to find the little bit good in things. I mean, even as like a little girl, I might have been sick, I might have been something, and anytime my mom would ask me, like, how are you feeling? I'd be like, I'm a little bit good. I can be coughing and, the whole sinusy, the whole 90. But if you find that little bit good in something and dust your pants off, like Emma was saying, yes, you can lay on the floor and have your good cry for a minute, but it's what you do next after that pivot and you move forward. I know, Emma, all of your different FFA experiences. I know in the first episode we didn't talk about it and you're very humble, but I want you to talk a little bit about your extemporaneous public speaking because that's near and dear to my heart, especially about your final stage speech at Nationals with Dolly Parton. That's another one of my favorite stories, Lacie, I think you might enjoy.
She's going to force me to talk about extemp. Okay, so... And tough man. My freshman year, he tells me, he's like, I want you to do extemp. I'd been to Nationals for Creed. He wanted me to do extemp as a freshman. But of course, there was this girl in my chapter who I still look up to and am great friends. Shout out Haley if you're listening. And she was amazing at extemporaneous speaking. And Mr. Cruse was like, okay, well, we might not beat Haley here. This is not the goal that you set for yourself. You do your best. And you just go into this. Use sub-districts as the opportunity to see if you want to do this contest. I won sub-districts. I was like, how does this happen? Did not go to states that year. Thank God. Again, did not want to be 14 doing high school state extent. No. So my sophomore year, I lost sub-districts and I'm like, okay, great, we're regressing. No, well, the guy that beat me went on to be third in the nation. So I'm like, maybe I could have been fourth. And then Mr. Cribs, the visionary he is like, well, maybe you could have been fourth, but you could be first next year. And I was like, now that's an idea. So we kept going with it. And my state finals, the year that I did end up going to nationals, I went like 26 seconds over time. It was the most egregious thing in history. I was like, I just yapped. I had a lot to say. And he's like, we're getting you a timing watch. I'm not having this happen. Guess who went over again at national finals? But I loved extemporaneous speaking. Not that I needed to learn how to yap more, but I definitely did. My national finals, I think, was the day that the legislation passed that consolidated Monsanto and Bayer. And I'm standing up there with my little genetic modification topic, or I don't know if it was consolidated or one absorbed the other. Whatever happened, they called me on it because I quoted it wrong. And I was like, well, great, I just lost the contest. And, talking about learning from Mr. Cribs and from my mama and daddy and from everyone who's spoken into my life to stop apologizing for things about myself. I'm the biggest old country music fan you will ever meet. And that was not something that I shared in common with a lot of people my age, but it was something that I kind of grew to embrace about myself. And so whose speech about women in country music and how they forged a place for themselves, just like technologies have to forge a place in agriculture when they're not wanted right at the start. Yeah, I talked about that. And I was like, oh, this was not great. Like, I went over time. It was horrible, but I did end up winning nationals, got to talk to the RFD reporters. It was so fun. And genuinely, I took so much away from that when I ended up going to college and majoring in journalism, I got to be on the other side of it. I was editor-in-chief of our newspaper at Florida Southern, and I was an anchor for our TV station. And I'm like, man, had I not had that conversation with, I think her name was Alex from RFD, I would not have seen that this is something cool that you can do. I started writing editorial columns about agriculture for a private Methodist college on a lake where a bunch of rich kids go to school. And that was kind of advocacy. A lot of these people had never been around agriculture, never seen a cow before, but I start bringing them home to visit with me. And then they're like, man, we love this, but it was just never in front of our faces. And so you talk about the impact that it can have beyond FFA. That was a contest that I did that I was like, oh yeah, I like talking to people. This is great. Not only did I learn how to fill out a tax form when they taxed my winnings, I also learned another valuable life skill, which was, that sometimes you're not in something for the reason that you think you are. You secretly discover your passion or unintentionally discover your passion for journalism. And that was just something really cool to me, that it was the post-contest interview that I was like, that was the coolest moment of the contest for me. Of course, getting called out on stage for not having terminology correct, wonderful. But embarrassing, you can still go watch that on YouTube. I'm like, this will follow me forever. My kids someday will be like, Mom, why did you do that? And I'll just be like, don't ask questions you don't want the answer to.
It's okay. I watched that YouTube video trying to coach myself for extemporaneous public speaking, and I went, I want to be her without ever knowing her. So for those of you listening, if you need some help with extemporaneous public speaking, you know who to call. She's your girl. And you can watch her final stage speech on YouTube. It's very good, despite what she's telling you.
Oh, my gosh. When I get to the National FFA office, like right after I got off the FaceTime call with Mr. Cribs and I was all waterworks, everything, I walk out in the hall. And there's this guy named Blake from Texas who was the immediate past national winner for extemp. And he's like, I know you, but you don't know me. And I'm like, how do you know me? And he's like, video from extemp. I'm like, why is this what I'm known for?
Hey, would you rather be known for that or being the George Strait girl? Because you can bring that up again and tell that story, because somebody quoted the king in order to become a state officer.
Yes, I did in fact do that. Funny, I know I told y'all I was sorting through those albums literally just today. When I was campaigning for state office and I kept getting asked the question a bajillion times, like, what are you going to give to Florida FFA? And so I was like, I'm a yapper. I can't summarize this. So who did I turn to figure out how to adequately describe what I wanted to contribute to Florida FFA? The king himself, George Strait. in the song I Cross My Heart, where he says, I cross my heart and promise to give all I've got to give to make all your dreams come true. In all the world, you'll never find a love as true as mine. So the next time I got asked on a call with JFFA, actually, in the Panhandle of Florida, what are you going to contribute this year as a state officer? What do you want to do? What do you want to give Florida FFA? I just quoted that song. And do you think that went over well? Nope, because everybody was like, that's so cheesy. Like, how is this girl going to give all the world the love, the most truest love you'll ever find? But I was like, I'm sticking with it. This is my brand now, and I'm doing it. Fast forward to me retiring from state office the next year, and they didn't have enough people apply to do state talent. So I already had to host a session as a state officer. I had already decided that it was going to be music themed. So what does state staff decide is their best course of action right now is having me do my own state talent in the session that I'm hosting, right? So fun. So I played like 5 instruments on stage. It was great, fun, music theme, whatever. And so then I'm like, well, what am I going to sing for state talent during the last session of the state convention? I'm about to take this jacket off forever. What am I going to do to make this the most poignant moment? Oh, I sang that. I crossed my heart. I sang it. I did. I was like, we doing this right now. And I was approached later and I was like, I didn't think that people would remember that I did that. But everybody's telling me, they're like, there was not a dry eye in the place. And I'm like, you know, that message may not have come at them the way they thought they were going to hear it. But by golly gee, I did sure enough give all I had to give that year. And in the end of it, I came back around with that song. And then like 2 years later, I was introducing one of the girls that was on that Zoom call with JFFA for her retiring address. And I'm like, you talk about something real full circle that, you know, it's a silly love song, something that, you know, romantic love is something that I do not even give off the vibe that I am experiencing in my life. I'm not even letting on that I'm experiencing that. But even though that's what that song is about in the context of, I think it's for other contexts too. You know, I think about the love that my advisors all gave me during middle school and high school, and that my parents have given me, my grandparents, my friends, and the love that Christ gave for me. I think about that, and it's the same kind of love that someone would give all they had to give to help my dreams come true. And I could never in the world find a love like has been given to me. So giving a tiny part of that year was so special to me, and getting to sing that song in the last session before I took my jacket off, that was extra special for me as well. And also having the people come to me afterward and being like, oh, so that wasn't just some silly little thing that you say, no, you meant that. Yeah, I wish that we could count on more people in the world to mean what they were saying. No matter how silly the message sounds, take the words at face value. That was genuinely what I set out to do as a state officer, and what I hope that I did even a tiny bit of.
I can say that you definitely did that, because I kind of missed this in the first take of this episode, so I think it's glad we kind of got to redo it. No, that was my first convention. Emma's year as a state officer, it was my very first FFA convention, and I competed and prepared public speaking as an 8th grader. I have to think about that. It's been a little while. And I remember Emma's retiring address. I remember that session. Obviously, I remember what I was wearing, his official dress, the whole 90. My mom and my aunt.
I think we're the same game.
Yeah, we were twinning. Anyway, that being said, I remember my first FFA convention sitting there crying. There was not a dry eye in that room, and I definitely wasn't somebody to argue that, because I was also teary-eyed because of the different things you spoke about in your retiring address, and how I can see now, knowing you closer as a friend and knowing that all of that is true. Wow, Emma, I'm so glad that Lacie and I got to experience your passion for the second time today and learn more about your FFA journey, how you're paying it forward, and all the different things you're involved in, and the love you have for this organization and for the Blue Jacket. And we just loved having you today. FFA members, we hope you loved having Emma as well, and we're so glad you got to listen to take number 2.